bonne fin d'après-midi, good afternoon, and welcome to the Forum of the Next Generation of Tax Experts. Bienvenue au Forum de la relève en fiscalité. It is important to include the younger tax experts in the discussion because they are the future users of our tax system, and they should be part of the solution. This year, the forum is focusing on the question of ethics in tax. To launch the forum, allow me to introduce you to Geneviève Mottard. Madame Mottard est membre de l'Ordre des comptables agréés du Québec depuis 2001. Depuis les 16 dernières années, Madame Mottard a fait preuve de courage et d'un leadership exemplaire pour améliorer les pratiques comptables au sein de la profession. At the helm of the Ordre des comptables agréés du Québec, Geneviève is also Vice President of the Federation of Experts comptables francophones. Welcome, Geneviève.
Merci beaucoup, Brigitte. Alors, Adam, Marie-Thérèse, Caroline, Chiedza, and of course, Carlie. Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. Ça me fait très grand plaisir d'être avec vous aujourd'hui comme fier partenaire du Forum de la Relève. Before I begin my remarks, just a small opening comment about the organization I have the privilege of heading up. The Ordre des comptables professionnels agréés du Québec is the organization that acts as the regulator for Quebec's 39,000 accountants. Yes, there are a lot of accountants in Quebec, as well as 5,000 candidates to the profession. We exist to protect the public and represent the interests of the profession, obviously. And our accountants operate in all spheres of accounting, whether that's management accounting, tax, obviously today's topic, financial accounting, and anything else you can imagine an accountant does. We view our mission of protecting the public, I think, very differently today than we used to a long time ago. A long time ago, it was more of a pure view of we must act to simply protect the public. I think we've been asked over the years to broaden that view and really include representing the public interest. As you know, the public is more and more informed and more mobilized than ever. And how the courts interpret it and taking the hard view of just a legislative point of view really is not up to par anymore. De toute évidence, les pratiques maintenant qui ne suivent que la lettre de la loi ne passent plus le test de l'opinion publique. Évidemment, il faut faire plus et surtout, il faut faire mieux. Une approche légaliste ne tient plus la route devant la nouvelle norme qui s'impose, et cette nouvelle norme-là est celle de l'acceptabilité sociale. This hyper-connected generation, and I'm going to look to the young people in the room, we often call you Generation Z. I'm going to can that term, and I'm going to call you Generation C. And Generation C stands for communication, collaboration, creativity, and connection. You're a generation that is looking for a meeting and is driven by humanist values that sees ethics as a fundamental principle in conducting yourselves and for business to conduct themselves. So today's debate on a taxation code of ethics, I believe, is right aligned with your values. But there's a challenge in that, because your generation is also one of contradictions and is a challenge in terms of cohesion. So a lot of C's in my presentation today. Indeed, the way you view the world and you consume goods, if we think of the Amazons, the Netflix, the Googles of the world, it is those organizations with which the young generation, together with us, consume every day, and they're the ones that led to today's debate about how businesses conduct themselves and where does ethics fit in all of this. Je vous invite donc à réfléchir à ces enjeux en portant votre chapeau de citoyen, bien sûr, de consommateur averti, en sachant que les choix que vous faites aujourd'hui affectent notre demain. Bon débat!
Thank you very much, Geneviève. That was very inspiring for a chartered public professional accountant like me. I enjoy what you just said. The next speaker is a crucial colleague and advisor at TaxCOOP, Mr. Adam Koniuszweski. Adam is a fellow chartered public accountant, associate member of the World Academy of Art and Science, and a fellow executive in residence at the Geneva Center for Security Policy. After an international business career in finance, strategy, and public affairs, Adam turned his focus to diplomatic, environmental, and security matters by joining President Mikhail Gorbachev as Executive Director of Green Cross International in 2008. Adam is now involved in creating educational initiatives for youth and business. He launched the Bridge Foundation initiative in 2009 to raise awareness about global challenges and promote a circular economy. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Brigitte. Thank you, Geneviève. Congratulations to the young panelists. Greetings to all of you here in the room. Greetings to everyone around the world who's listening to this conference through live Facebook. And a very special greeting to you, young people in this room, and especially to 3 institutions that are very important here in Geneva. I'm looking at EU University, but I'll finish with you guys. The first one is Collège du Léman. Dear friends, hello. Then we have a group from CEC André Chavannes. And last but not least, well, in fact, there are other schools, but I don't know about them, but European University. Our young leaders from European University are worth mentioning something a little more about for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because they have been here since this morning. Congratulations. Secondly, because they have a special mission here. They have been taking notes from every single session, and they are acting as rapporteurs. Just like we have in high-level United Nations meetings, they are reporting back on every session, and we will use this report. But that's not all. The second thing they are doing for us is providing us with their own ideas, their own inputs, their own recommendations, so that when we receive their final report, we can send it to tax policymakers at the highest level, at the World Bank, at the OECD, and of course, at the United Nations. So EU University, thank you very much. Now, I know my time is counted here, so I have to hurry up. I'm sorry. About Geneva. The conference is taking place for the first time in Geneva, at least this conference, TaxCOOP. Geneva. Geneva is the city of peace. It's the city of human rights. It's the city of international solidarity. This is where the heart of the United Nations system beats. And this conference is not about the arcane technicalities of the Income Tax Act. This conference is about equity, justice, and building a better tomorrow. And I could not think of a better place than the United Nations to hold this forum. And it's the first time TaxCOOP is here. I certainly hope it's not the last. Now, world leaders have agreed to an agenda for sustainable development to benefit people, the planet, and to build prosperity for all. This is an ambitious agenda with 17 goals. and it's meant for humanity. Now, why do I mention humanity? It's because this morning we talked about robots. So this is not for multinationals using robots and shedding jobs. This is for people, and the people are us. These goals include eradicating poverty, universal access to education, and addressing climate change. This agenda demands the contribution of everyone in this room. And with 1.8 billion young people, yes, 1.8 billion, 1 out of 4 people on this planet, we are talking about young people. Not only must you be involved in these discussions, you must be at the center of the solutions. If we are to build a better future for all, we need your contribution. And this is why I say that you young people are not the leaders of tomorrow, you must be the leaders of today. And dear young friends, the future is in your hands. And the future does not start tomorrow morning, it starts right here and right now. And I have 1 minute left, and amazingly, I am actually done. So thank you very much.
Adam, thank you so much. In my notes, I wrote, "Thank you, Adam. You always have the perfect words to mark our imagination." So, thank you so much, Adam. The next speaker is Marie-Thérèse Dugas. Marie-Thérèse is a CPA and a tax professor at the University of Sherbrooke. She is a polyvalent financial and tax specialist with a global expertise in international taxation and transfer pricing. Marie-Thérèse gained her diversified experience in Canada, USA, and Germany, respectively, in international taxation, transfer pricing, tax advisory, and teaching. In preparation of the forum, we asked tax students of many universities to prepare their suggestions of what could be a good code of ethics in tax. Marie-Thérèse will be talking about these codes of ethics to you. Welcome, Marie-Thérèse.
Merci Brigitte. Chère jeunesse, Mesdames, Messieurs, bonjour. D'abord, je tiens à remercier tous les participants pour leur excellente contribution à proposer des codes d'éthique en fiscalité. Il a été un véritable plaisir de prendre connaissance de chacun d'entre eux. Nous avons eu la chance de recevoir des contributions d'étudiants de plus d'une quinzaine de nationalités, performant leur étude dans 6 universités différentes. Je tiens à préciser que cet exercice était vaste et demandait aux étudiants une réflexion de haut niveau. Nous avons établi un jury de manière à marier la fiscalité, l'éthique et l'administration publique. À cet effet, les membres du jury étaient Madame Nathalie Cossette, Madame Sophie Gagnon, Madame Annick Lepage et Monsieur René Villemur, ainsi que moi-même. Afin de procéder à l'évaluation des codes d'éthique suggérés par les étudiants, les membres du jury ont d'abord établi certains critères d'évaluation éclairés par nos personnes de référence en éthique. 7 critères ont été établis par le jury, en plus de la clarté de la langue et de la présentation générale du code d'éthique. Ces 7 critères sont les suivants. Le but ou la raison d'être du code, la définition de l'éthique, la présence de concepts d'équité, la présence de concepts de valeur, le traitement des conflits d'intérêts, les sanctions et mesures correctives, ainsi que l'engagement envers le code. Nous allons vous présenter les 3 codes d'éthique s'ayant davantage distingués à travers ces critères. D'abord, le but ou la raison d'être du Code d'éthique devait être présenté. Le Code d'éthique suggéré par Olivier Maltais s'est distingué avec la mention originale de fiscalité humaine. Nous avons également recueilli d'intéressantes mentions dans d'autres codes d'éthique, à savoir des buts de justice fiscale, d'équité envers les contribuables, d'équité envers les générations futures. Ensuite, le second critère consistait à présenter une définition de l'éthique. Le code d'éthique proposé par Sana El-Hariri et Amir Khalili s'est distingué avec la mention originale à l'effet que l'éthique va au-delà du droit et de la déontologie. Nous avons également recueilli d'intéressantes mentions dans d'autres codes en lien avec la responsabilité sociale, avec le fait que l'éthique va bien au-delà de la conformité fiscale et avec la mention de communauté. Le troisième critère retenu consistait à valider que le concept d'équité était présent dans le code d'éthique suggéré. Il a été possible de le retracer à travers pratiquement tous les codes d'éthique et de différentes formes en lien avec la conformité fiscale, la protection du contribuable, la protection du patrimoine des contribuables, la protection de la vie personnelle et des informations confidentielles, et la lutte aux stratégies fiscales dommageables, par exemple. Un quatrième critère consistait à évaluer la présence du concept de valeur, ce qui a été généralement atteint par tous les candidats de manière très variée, de manière très intéressante, ce qui représente bien le monde d'aujourd'hui. Le code d'éthique de Rama Marouf s'est distingué au titre de la notion de conflit d'intérêts, qui était présentée par l'objectivité, l'intégrité et la clarté. Pour ce qui est du critère d'évaluation relatif aux sanctions applicables et aux mesures correctives, aucun code ne l'a adressé. Qu'est-ce qu'on peut en retirer? Je lance la question à la jeunesse d'ici. Finalement, le dernier critère d'évaluation qui consiste en l'engagement envers le code d'éthique a été uniquement salué par Rana Marouf. Et en résumé, nous avons pu constater une excellente contribution des étudiants. Les notions d'équité et de valeur sont certainement celles ayant davantage attiré l'attention, ce qui est fort rassurant pour nos générations futures. Merci à tous les étudiants d'avoir participé à TaxCOOP 2017.
Thank you very much, Marie-Thérèse. This was very clear. Thank you very much. The next speakers are Caroline Macfarland, Chiedza Museredza, and Carlie Weinreb. Sorry for the mispronunciation. This is a very special panel for TaxCOOP, and thank you very much, Caroline, Chiedza, and Carlie, that you accepted our invitation. Let me start with Caroline. Caroline is the founder and director of Common Vision called COVI, an independent non-for-profit think tank with a mission to inspire civic engagement and policy understanding amongst the millennium generation. Common Vision hosts the UK Responsible Tax Lab, a network of businesses and civil society organizations working together to co-design a tax system that is fit for the purpose for the future. She is a regular commentator for UK and international publications and media outlets. In 2015, Caroline was named one of the Management Today's 35 women under 35. Welcome, Caroline.
Hello, hi everyone in the room today, and hello everyone who's joining us on Facebook Live as well. Thank you very much for that introduction, Brigitte. I have to say that although I spend my working life working with millennials and the attitudes and expectations of people aged 18 to 35 and working with a number of tax professionals and NGOs around tax, I do feel a mild sense of imposter syndrome when labelled a young tax expert. And that's partly because the idea of a tax expert often conjures up an academic, an economist, or at least someone with quite a lot of letters after their name. And secondly, because in this room today, I don't think I can consider myself young. I'm about 20 years older than Carlie over there, and for once, I'm really pleased to say that I think I'm probably in the older 50% of the age group in the room today. So congratulations to TaxCOOP for making that happen. But in thinking about what I had to say today about a younger perspective on tax, I did try and consider what it means to be young in respect to the tax debate. And the first thing to say is that younger people are people, and so actually there's many similarities between the views of the young and the views of older people. However, I'm just going to pick up on a few distinctions or trends that might be worth mentioning. The first is that research on the attitudes and expectations of younger citizens often finds that younger people are more interested in global justice concerns. So we don't have living memory of an age before globalization. And although that clearly has its challenges, it also has its opportunities. And there's clear implications for opportunities around collaboration and working across borders for social change. The second thing is that younger people often, I would say, have a different sort of user experience, whether that's how we access and use information. We might do that more immediately via the internet or looking up something on Wikipedia, or how we share our own personal experiences and information. This is in relation to all walks of life, but I think it has many expectations for the implications on citizenship. And younger people often expect more accountability, more direct engagement with both government and private organisations. The idea of privacy and secrecy feels alien. And this is all in a context of very rapid pace of change and rapid communication, so flexibility to that context is key too. And then the third thing that I reflected on is fairly obvious, but if you're younger, then you have longer to live in society. And so that does have implications for long-termism in relation to policy and a shift in narrative about what taxation is for. It's not just about public spending levels today or tomorrow or next week, or even what the rules and laws look like today or tomorrow. It's about the society that we can create for tomorrow and how we can make that happen through our actions today. So what's this got to do with a code of ethics and taxation? Well, the world is smaller, faster, and the future has lots of opportunities for cooperation and collaboration. And any company that wants to exist in that context needs to adapt to social expectations. The very concept of risk has changed in that context. Business cannot succeed in a cynical or suspicious society. And whether that's because of how it affects the customer base, employee retention, wider social reputation or legitimacy, it has to consider, businesses and other stakeholders have to consider the risks and the rewards of their behaviour. And in that context, of course, a code of ethics makes sense. As we've heard a lot today, tax is a hallmark of a civilised society. Tax belongs to everyone, and it is the foundation of a society in which we have public services, an education system, and an infrastructure from which everyone benefits. So surely society has to be involved in shaping that system. We can call it ethics, we can call it morality, we can call it values, but we should think of it as social expectations, a social conversation, public dialogue, a social contract. However, a mandatory code of ethics is a little bit of a different conversation to have. Of course, there's a question of enforcement. How do you actually demonstrate that spirit of intent? But actually, the challenge of enforcing something is not enough to rule it out as an option. But more importantly, a code of ethics needs to be co-created by society. It cannot be imposed from above. And that's why I think considering a voluntary, aspirational code of ethics is important. When I first spoke to people who said, sure, a code of ethics is a great idea, but it needs to be voluntary, I thought, it sounds like you're trying to take the easy way out on that. But it's a conversation that has to be had because a code of ethics is a choice to be made. So I would propose that perhaps rather than a mandatory ethical framework, something that could be mandatory would be a rule to disclose an ethical framework or a strategy that is bespoke to certain nations, certain actors, or certain stakeholders. An example in the UK is a new rule for multinational for companies of a certain size to disclose their tax strategies. And it's different for different organisations. Sometimes it's a case of just consolidating what was already there, but spread out across different web pages or different documents. Sometimes it's an opportunity to think more purposefully about why we do certain things and why not. And sometimes it's an opportunity to think about going beyond what we do today and thinking about how we change our behaviour for tomorrow. On reading some of the proposed codes by the students who took part in the initiative, there were some really, really interesting ideas, and it's a huge credit to everyone who participated. There was mentions of the need to evolve with and in society, the idea of a social compact and building dialogue around that, what disclosures and transparency of information could achieve, what the meaning of fair share and paying a fair share might be. And the role of other stakeholders, such as government, was also mentioned. For me, I think there's three things that might be worth considering when thinking about an ethical framework. The first thing is articulation of purpose. What does a business see as its role in society? What does any taxpayer see as its role in society? And how does taxation and the process of paying tax fit with that vision? The second thing is the principles which stem from that purpose. In a corporation, any business is made up of human beings who inevitably make choices around their wider tax behaviour based on their values as an organisation and also their own personal values and choices of the individuals within that organisation. Principles can also be applied across sectors and across nations as well, for example, internationally. In a report we wrote a couple of years ago, which was quoted by Michael Leonard this morning, we looked at how the UN had proposed its principles of responsible investment and how a similar code might be applicable to taxation. And then the third thing to consider last but not least, is the process of creating, shaping, and revisiting an ethical framework or a code of conduct, one that engages people and moves with the times. Because if all stakeholders are to buy into an ethical framework, we need to keep on revisiting that, keep on shaping it, and keep on talking about it. This morning, we heard that in the future, robots would take all of our jobs. And that might be the case, but there's no algorithm for ethics and morality yet. And robots can't keep up with the public mood and can't keep on having that dialogue. And that's why a human interpretation is so important. Finally, on looking at the initiative that was set on the ethical framework, I did notice that it was aimed at taxpayers and their advisors, but ethics stretches beyond corporate behavior alone. And tax is something which relates to governments, individuals, and we can have a similar process for policy scrutiny and holding legislators to account and the people who set the rules, making sure that that is done in a way that engages with society. As we've heard today, tax is complex, it's a very complex issue, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't at least try to engage people and shouldn't try to take part in that debate. So let's take the tax debate beyond the tax experts, and thank you very much, TaxCOOP, for starting and doing that today.
Thank you very much, Caroline. That was, again, very inspiring. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Chiedza Museredza. Chiedza holds a LLB from the University of Cape Town. During her LLB, she was selected by CBL International to attend the summer school at the University of Oxford, where she studied selected issues in corporate tax in the EU. She recently graduated from the Osgood Hall Law School with a LLM in international business law. During her studies, she focused her research on international tax, more on BEPS. Her paper titled "The Effects of OECD BEPS Action 2 on Canada-US Hybrid Mismatch Arrangement" was published by Thomas Reuters. Welcome, Chiedza.
Good evening, and thank you, Brigitte, for that lovely introduction. Hello, everyone who's attending, and it is such a great honor to be sitting on the very first panel with young people at TaxCOOP. So thank you, Brigitte and her team, for trusting us, the three of us, to start off this amazing initiative. Right now, getting on to very serious topic we have at hand today, which is looking at the importance of creating a code of ethics in the context of tax avoidance and aggressive tax planning. Now, the issues of aggressive tax planning and abusive tax avoidance are ethical in principle. And what this means is that although these tax practices are legal in terms of they follow the letter of the law, they're unethical if we look at the effect that they have in society. For example, governments have lost large amounts of revenue, and there's unfair burden falling on a lot of taxpayers as a result of taxpayers who engage in these unethical tax practices. Now, given the nature, the ethical nature of these issues, I believe that the solutions, as Geneviève has rightly said, that as the young people, we should be coming up and thinking of these solutions. I think that the solutions to these ethical problems that we have should be rooted in applying ethical principles. And this brings me to this very important topic we're talking about, which is creating a code of ethics in tax. Broadly speaking, a code of ethics is defined as a guide of ethical principles designed to help professionals conduct their business with honesty and integrity. Now, I think that creating a code of ethics for tax in the context of abusive tax avoidance and aggressive tax planning could potentially be a useful solution. This is mainly because it is a solution that is grounded in applying ethical principles. Now, who would this code of ethics apply to? Is it going to apply to the taxpayers, to the tax professionals, to the tax administrators? My view is that if we are to create a code of ethics, it should apply to the tax professionals. The tax professionals are the brains behind these unethical tax structures. And they also play a very important role in the public sector, in that typically tax administrators rely on their expert knowledge in developing tax legislation. So given the important role they play in tax, it is important that they conduct their business ethically, and that means with honesty and integrity. Now, as some of you may know or may not know, we already have codes of ethics that exist for tax professionals. These have been implemented by professional bodies and various revenue authorities across the world. So now, the very fact that we're talking about creating a new code of ethics when we already have codes of ethics in existence is a clear sign that the current ones are failing. They're failing to curb these unethical practices of abusive tax avoidance. So what is the solution? Should we reinvent the wheel and create a new code of ethics? Or should we simply improve the current codes of ethics? My view is that we should work on improving the current codes of ethics that apply to tax professionals. Reason being, codes of ethics tend to be very context specific, and creating a global code of ethics that will apply across the world may be undermined due to the fact that codes of ethics vary in different contexts. Now, the question is, how can we fix these current codes of ethics that are clearly failing? Now, many scholars are of the view that the current codes of ethics are failing to curb tax avoidance, mainly because they lack guidelines that tax professionals can look at to determine whether they are crossing the ethical lines. We must remember when it comes to tax planning, there are so many gray areas. There are cases of very blatant tax avoidance, and abusive tax avoidance, and there are cases that could fall, on the legal side and not legal side. And it's in those gray areas that tax professionals are having a difficult time in demarcating an ethical line. So the request really is that the professional bodies and revenue authorities across the world embark on this daunting, difficult task, but very necessary, of trying to establish these guidelines that will help tax professionals in determining or demarcating the ethical line when it comes to tax planning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chiedza. That was very nice, very useful thoughts. Our next speaker is Carlie Weinreb. Carlie is the North American media proclaimed 10 years old financial whiz. She has more than 500,000 views on social media. Carlie has appeared on numerous media outlets such as CBS, Fox, CBC, NBC, including the Steve Harvey Show and the Bloomberg News. Carlie has written articles for numerous organizations, and she is the CEO of a storefront mat location she recently launched. Welcome, Carlie. The stage is yours.
Welcome. I'm Carlie Weinreb. This year happens to be the 100th birthday of Canada's income tax system. The U.S. income tax system is even older. These income tax systems were created at the time when trade was very local and all done on horse and buggy. Today, 100 years later, everyone's using the internet. We have gone from very local trade to more and more global trade. Our income tax systems are falling behind. We need to play catch-up. We are losing billions of tax dollars from our global companies. Governments still have to pay for roads, bridges, and schools. Where will they find these missing monies? At the end of the day, they're going to have to raise a tax on all of us. Us includes pressuring doctors, entrepreneurs, and farmers. This pressuring is the exact issue of what is happening in Canada today. Our global companies are profit shifting. They shift profits to offshore tax havens. These offshore tax havens have a 0% tax rate or a very low percent tax rate. There are more than 1,000 Canadian companies set up in the tax havens Barbados. These include giants like Petro-Canada and Loblaws. In the U.S., 72% of the Fortune 500 have companies in the tax havens. Walmart alone has 78 companies in the tax havens with 0 stores. Profit shifting is when a company makes a puppet company in the tax havens. Here is one example. Microsoft USA sets up a puppet company in Singapore. Microsoft USA allows Microsoft Singapore to sell its softwares like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Microsoft USA strips some of its sales and profits to Microsoft Singapore. So Microsoft USA does not have to pay U.S. tax on the sales and profits that shifted to Microsoft Singapore. Remember, this is only one of the 72% of the Fortune 500 that have companies in the tax havens. This profit shifting is called tax avoidance. Today, rich countries are here. Today, poor countries are here. Here's the gap. If rich countries lose monies of the government, they slide to here. If poor countries lose money from the government, they slide to here. Here's the gap. Did the gap get smaller, bigger, or stayed the same? It got bigger. If the gap gets bigger, the world is going to be unstable. So I am here today at the TaxCOOP conference at the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland. I am asking the United Nations to make tax avoidance their #1 issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carlie. That was really nice. So, Michael, you heard that? Now you have really big homework to please Carlie. Thank you. I have the honor to introduce you to Christoph Stueckelberger, who is going to close this forum for us. Mr. Stueckelberger is the founder and the president of the global network on ethics called globeethics.net, based in Geneva, Switzerland, and with 10 offices on 4 continents and more than 180,000 members. His main fields of research are economic and business ethics, finance ethics, including tax ethics, political ethics, development ethics, environmental ethics, and philanthropy. He published as author and as editor many books and hundreds of articles on applied ethics. Welcome, Christoph.
Good evening, everybody. After a long day, I'd like to give a short feedback on this panel and a few thoughts on that. I can continue what Carlie just said. Make tax avoidance a high priority of the UN. Congratulations for this sentence. I would underline that. But what is behind that? And I would like to mention a few things. Maybe how we can come to that point. First, a great thank to TaxCOOP. It's really a very important issue, and I work since 3 decades on development issues and see all the time that financing development is so closely linked to tax issues. But it's also very closely linked to the corruption issue, and there I would like to challenge also our young friends here in the room. I was shocked when I was last time in Nairobi, not so long ago, to read a poll, a representative poll saying that the majority of the 15 to 25 years old Kenyans have no problem to bribe or to accept bribes as long as they are not going to jail. So that's the only criteria. As long as I can avoid to go to jail, it's okay. That's a shocking figure. So we are in the same boat. Young and old, we have to solve the corruption issue. Because the corruption issue is the soft factor in the tax avoidance. We can have nice international laws, and the OECD start doing a wonderful work. It's really important. But if there is corruption, even if the best information tools, it's not enough. Take a second example. I was in the Philippines for a conference with police officers on ethics. A young 40 years old entrepreneur, she told me she became a Christian, and she said, yeah, as a Christian I have to pay tax. So she paid the full tax that she had to pay. Then the tax officer called her and said, are you crazy? It's the first time I have seen somebody to pay voluntarily all the tax. She said, that's my obligation. And the tax officer was also a Christian, you imagine, because he did not get his kickback anymore. So this is the reality behind tax avoidance. The second point, I think what we heard about the codes is very encouraging, and congratulations for your efforts to work on codes. Codes of ethics are a good instrument, and you proposed to work to adopt existing codes. That's good. Also new codes are possible, because what is the meaning of working on a code is to appropriate, to work to make it our own. And I think that's the necessity of a code of ethics, but of course it can never replace laws, binding laws with sanctions. But these are two instruments which are both needed. But the core, which I missed a bit today, the core ethical problem apart from corruption, in my view, is the question of the relation between the citizen, the corporates, and the state. What is the state for me? Is it my enemy? I have to keep it away? Is it, as we call it in Switzerland, a milk cow? We just get milk from it, but we profit, but we don't contribute? Or is it a partner where we say, I am part of the state, and it's my state, and I have to contribute. And that has to do with governance and with the issue of ethics on the state side. Means how can we have trust between citizens and the state? And it's very clear. I teach tax ethics, and when we look at the trust between citizens and states, it's about proximity. Do I see the school around the corner where my kids can go? I like to pay tax because I see the road is okay, the school is working. This is the proximity which creates trust. So we need to build this trust as a precondition of tax regime and to avoid tax avoidance. Because tax avoidance is about lack of trust that the government is doing something meaningful for us as citizens. And the second reason is it's a means of egoism and lack of citizenship. We should come back to the we, as it was mentioned today, the community orientation, as also Carlie was saying, and the other young and not so young speakers were saying. So this community orientation, and I'm convinced if we add these ethics elements, the legal elements, and the citizenship and governance elements, then we can make progress. And I'm convinced this is a step ahead, and I hope that there will be many other COPs, tax COPs, to continue this pressure we need to have the revenues for the states that the state needs to serve its people. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So this will close the forum for the next generation of tax experts. Thank you very much. It was for the other founders and colleagues of TaxCOOP. I'm sure you think the same thing as I think presently. It was higher than our expectation. And thank you also, Geneviève, for de l'Ordre des comptables agréés for supporting us in this initiative, and also la chaire de recherche de l'université en fiscalité de l'Université du Québec, de l'Université de Sherbrooke. So thank you so much, and I will welcome Louise and Manuel Montes to close the conference of today.
Well, it's time to say goodbye, eh? And we have to close this very interesting session. And we're going to do that quickly, a couple of minutes. But just before starting, no, please, come up. This forum of the future, R&D amazing, eh? It's amazing. It could be the closing remarks, so good they were. In the wake of increasing and sustained public attention to the role that international taxation plays in determining economic, social, and political outcomes in society, the future contours of the international system are up for debate among an increasingly broad community. You know, those who fashion policy objectives into tax law design can no longer work in isolated, small technical committees as they once did during the early development of the international tax system world. It's over. Instead, tax policy now evolves with the constant, some may say confusing sometimes, but constant input of an array of stakeholders that includes journalists, activists, advocates, academic researchers, students, professional experts, think tanks, and lobbyists. But above, a growing public audience that observes and comments in real time via social media. We once thought that the taxation language was far more too complex for ordinary citizens. Well, I have news for you. An increasing number of these citizens around the world have become aware of the gap and failures of our current international tax system, aware of the direct link between the shortfall in tax revenue of public treasury and the increased wealth of world corporations and too rich citizens. TaxCOOP was formed in 2015 with the belief that good tax policy cannot develop without such an environment of stakeholders. TaxCOOP was formed with a single goal in mind, working toward the development of globally collaborative spaces in which diverse stakeholders may effectively exchange their ideas, their knowledge, their concerns in an open forum, all together. And, you know, the mission of TaxCOOP is, at the end of the day, bringing together the most prominent actors in the international tax world and shed some light into this complex field which will craft the future of our citizens. Si on peut espérer que les nations puissent remplir leurs devoirs face aux besoins croissants des citoyens, et j'en identifie 3 les plus importants, l'éducation, la santé, et maintenant surtout l'environnement qui est devenu l'enjeu vital de notre monde vivant, il faudra compter sur les grandes entreprises, les entreprises mondiales, les géants du numérique qui transigent via l'économie numérique et compter aussi sur les richissimes contribuables qui doivent faire leur juste part à l'égard de toute la communauté dans le respect des règles convenues. On parle non pas d'équité fiscale, on parle non pas d'égalité fiscale, mais bien d'équité fiscale. L'évasion fiscale, l'évitement fiscal, la fiscalité agressive font perdre au gouvernement chaque année des centaines de milliards de dollars. Les défis au regard de cette concurrence fiscale dommageable ou de l'évasion fiscale ou l'évitement fiscal sont complexes. Ce ne sont pas des défis qui sont simples. Ils nécessitent une action concertée et déterminée des décideurs. Selon Carl Levine, l'ancien sénateur américain du Michigan, ex-président d'un sous-comité du Congrès qui a mené la lutte contre ces pratiques, l'état du monde en regard de la fiscalité internationale, et je le cite là, il dit « n'est pas un accident, c'est le résultat de politiques délibérées des pays. Nous avons permis cela », souligne-t-il, que ce soit en abaissant les taux d'imposition, en signant des accords avec les paradis fiscaux ou en fermant seulement les yeux sur le contournement de l'esprit des règles fiscales. La croissance des inégalités dans le monde est en voie de menacer la cohésion sociale. Nous avons le choix d'assister à l'accroissement de la démesure de cette inégalité ou alors d'amorcer des changements importants en vue de la menuiser. Qu'est-ce que ça prend? La créativité, de l'audace, la jeunesse qui était ici présent aujourd'hui. J'entends l'idée d'un cadastre mondial, c'est extraordinaire. J'entendais ce matin avec le même étonnement que vous tous, ce panel sur la robotique, sur l'ère des robots qui s'en vient. Et je me disais, c'est extraordinaire parce que probablement dans 15 à 20 ans, avec l'intelligence artificielle qui se développe et la haute technologie, on ne sera plus ici à parler de transparence parce que le mot secret va devenir presque un concept du passé. Tout sera accessible. Évidemment, tout ne sera pas divulgué, mais tout sera potentiellement accessible. Sans doute aurons-nous franchi le pas de la transparence. Alors, ces idées, elles ont été développées ici et c'est fascinant venant des jeunes, venant de tous les continents et c'est vraiment un grand terroir pour la pensée d'une société nouvelle. Une nouvelle éthique doit émerger, les jeunes nous le disent. Cette éthique sera planétaire, un nouvel ordre mondial est en train de voir le jour. Well, now it's time to say goodbye and welcome you all in 2018. Why don't we fix the meeting in Paris in 2018? Why not? Eh? And before closing this conference, on behalf of TaxCOOP and Brigitte Alepin, our inspirational leader, I would like to thank all the speakers who have cut in the busy schedule to come to Geneva and share with us graciously their thinking and their vision for inclusivity in global tax governance. We're very grateful to all of you. And don't forget, there is she says there's a cocktail just after. And where? She's one of the Ah, voilà. Vous avez compris? 8th floor? Is that right? Thank you very much, Manuel.
I don't know what else has to be said, but let me just give some general thoughts about this meeting, which I enjoyed very much, right? Well, laws start with ethics. Remember when we debated about the robots, what kind of ethics would be required to impose taxes on robots? And the question that this discussion today brought to me is, are we satisfied with the laws that we are living in today, right? Are we satisfied with the ethics expressed by these laws, right? Are we satisfied with the ethics that we live in today? I mean, if you want to separate that from the tax issue, are we satisfied with the general ethics that society lives on today? And I guess for me the answer was no. We were not satisfied with these ethical systems that we live on today. We're not satisfied with the laws that create those ethics. And therefore, one thing that I learned in the last session right now is, well, it turns out there's a whole generation of young people who have only known this globalized world. I mean, I'm not there, right? I understood the world when it was individual sovereign states, right? And it turns out, even in this globalized world, we are very dissatisfied with the laws and ethics that govern a world in which the economies and social discussions and social relationships are very, very interdependent. So there's a level of interdependence which the young people and the older people like me too can see as very dissatisfactory in terms of the laws and ethics that govern it. So this is one thing that I learned today, and I hope that you also think about taking with you after this conference. And the conference has thrown a challenge to all of us, and to maybe the people who are in the Facebook, to work on the international tax system, right? And to work on it both at the domestic level and at the international level. So let me close my remark by saying, let me thank all of you for participating here in this conference. I hope you have, I just wanted to say what I learned myself, right? Let me thank TaxCOOP for preparing this festival of discussions, debates, proposals, and challenges that they have thrown to us. And let me thank TaxCOOP too for widening the group of people who are accountable for the laws and ethics that govern tax systems. So on behalf of all the other hosts, I mean, I'm a co-host along with TaxCOOP. I want to thank all of you, and I want to thank everyone, and I'm very pleased to be closing a very successful discussion today. Thank you very much.